and welcome to the Food Matters Talk Show. We consume sugar daily, and we know that there are sugary foods that we should not consume in excess. But what is the truth behind the limit on sugar? Doctors mention that sugar is a dangerous substance and have shown the bad effects of sugar. Companies have labels that say things like sugar-free, low-fat, or all-natural. But is that all true? Today we'll be hearing different perspectives from the medical doctor, Dr. Federica Steck, and the company specialist, Dr. Isa Takahara, who will be debating about if we should hide more sugar in food to make it taste better and sell better. Dr. Takahara will be expressing the company's perspective, and Dr. Steck will be expressing the doctor's perspectives. If we look at this issue from the medical perspective, we know that sugar causes or contributes a lot of health issues, such as diabetes, heart disease, kidney disease, obesity, and many others. On the other hand, companies hide extra sugar in food to make it taste better, and so the result is that it sells better and quicker. Companies and doctors have been fighting over this issue for a while now. The question now is, who is correct? We will leave the rest to the experts. Dr. Steck, you may begin this debate.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The first point I would like to make is that we need to cut down on sugar because it has too many negative effects on the brain and body. This is my main idea, and I think that this is really important because, as we know, sugar causes diseases that can be or are mostly life-threatening. Since the time where sugar became quite cheap, diabetes, heart disease, and obesity rates have skyrocketed.
We do know and realize that sugar is causing problems, but we have to sell our food, and if it does not reach the bliss point in customers, then they won't buy it as much, which will reduce the profit that we make. We are not trying to be selfish because it is beneficial for us as we get more money, and beneficial for consumers because they like the taste of it.
What is your perspective on cheap and unhealthy foods?
My perspective on cheap and unhealthy food is that it is really bad for you because since sugar became very cheap and accessible, which means that unhealthy sugary foods are often very easy to get, sugar-caused problems have risen greatly, almost double. These are the type of foods that are easily accessible for poor people. When they get sick, they either do not notice, or even if they notice, they will most likely die because they cannot afford a doctor. This is not only bad for them, as they can get serious health issues. It is also bad for us, as they cannot afford a doctor, and so we don't make any profit from it.
We have tried to add more organic and healthy foods, but they don't sell as much or as fast as the foods in which we hide extra sugar or artificial sweeteners. Organic foods are also hard to get and is expensive. On the other hand, artificial sweeteners and sugars are easy and cheaper to get. We know it's all unhealthy, but having more consumers buying it makes a great deal.
What is your perspective on sugar being added to make food taste better?
I think that adding sugar to make food taste better is okay. We understand that the consumers like the taste of sugar and that it is beneficial for you, as you get extra profit, but it also has really bad effects on the consumer because it causes diseases and is addictive. When consumers become addicted to sugar, they will consume sugar in too big amounts. And then, when they try to change their diet, they will basically consume exactly the same amount of sugar as before because there is so much hidden sugar in food. This can, if consumed over long periods of time, result in obesity, diabetes, heart disease, kidney disease, or cancer. This will obviously give us more profit, but we are honestly concerned about the lives of future generations because of the rising diabetes and obesity rates in children and especially in adults.
What is your perspective on the ways that companies use to hide sugar?
The sugar that we add is not really hidden. We just list it under different names so that it is less noticeable. Some of the most common names we use are high fructose corn syrup, dextrin, maltodextrin, glucose, sucrose, and aspartame. We also do this so that there's a little bit of each type of sweetener or sugar, and so that it would be listed at the very bottom on the nutrition facts label. Consumers also think that fat has negative effects, so we make the products low-fat or fat-free, and instead of fat, we put a lot of artificial sugar. Doing this helps us sell our products much faster, and it is a very beneficial way to do it because the consumers do not know what kind of sugar we are putting in the foods.
My perspective on the ways that companies hide sugar is that it is definitely smart, but we seriously need to cut down on sugar. Because of the hidden sugar is in already 80% of all the foods in supermarkets. It is getting harder and harder to buy organic food with no added sugar and only natural sugar, and so we do not know what to buy. Doctors all around the world are very worried about future global health.
Generally, from the medical point, I think sugar should be consumed in a limited amount to prevent it creating health issues. However, to make consumers happy, companies add additional sugar and sweeteners so that the products taste better and sell better. Keeping in mind your personal health, we must all consider how much sugar we consume and how we can reduce our daily intake. I'd like to thank the two guest speakers for their contribution to this debate. They have given us some facts and information to think about. I hope that each and every one of you will reconsider your sugar consumption. Remember, the hand that feeds your mouth is yours, so you need to make a decision about sugar and your health. Thank you all for joining us. Are there any questions you'd like to ask?
So how much sugar are we allowed to eat per day?
50 grams.
50 grams.
When we went to AIB stuff there, it was our field trip, and we asked about how much sugar, and we don't really need sugar, but up to 50 grams per day is all right.
Should sugar be forbidden, like alcohol, one day in the US?
There are different perspectives on that. There are people who believe that it is a toxic substance that we should not consume, but others believe that we need it and that we should still keep it in the world. So there are debates about that too.
What about somebody probably like me who's pretty addicted to it? What advice do you have?
Maybe like gradually you can like cut down on sugar. Maybe you shouldn't just like suddenly cut down on sugar. Like maybe gradually.
Reduce the amount, like day by day.
And 50 grams of sugar translates to what? What can I have for 50 grams of sugar a day?
That's about 12 sugar cubes per day.
So what do you recommend for breakfast?
Banana or bread.
So how much sugar is in a banana?
4 cubes of sugar.
4
Which is
cubes.
16 grams.
16 grams. So
3 bananas for-
3 bananas for breakfast.
Is there a difference? You said that there's 4 cubes of sugar in a banana. Is there a difference between natural sugar and artificial sugar?
Well, natural sugar is not really either one part or another part, but in fruits it's mostly only fructose, and in table sugar, which they call sucrose, there is half glucose and half fructose. So that's kind of the difference.
And is one better for you than another, or is one any worse than the other?
Well, when we went to the doctor, when we asked about the differences, they say that they both artificial sweeteners and fruit natural sugar causes like high blood sugar, but I think artificial sweeteners are worse than natural sugar.
What are some of the warning signs that your body will emit if you've been eating too much sugar directly after the snack? What types of things should you be on the lookout for?
Well, we did an experiment, as some of you might know. We have it on our display downstairs, and we did an experiment where for 1 week we would record what we ate, and then half an hour we would record how we felt and how many grams of sugar was in the food that we ate. And Rian, Isa, Miss Jana, and I did it, and in us, probably because we're younger, we first noticed that it affected us after a meal. So it was at the next meal that we would feel it. If we had a sugary breakfast, we would feel it at lunch. For example, we would not be feeling full. We would be tired. We would be really thirsty, And so we think that that's probably what sugar does to children. That it's just the next meal, and then it's over, and then if you eat more sugar again, it'll affect you at the next meal again. But for example, when Miss Dana ate a sugary meal, it would affect her for a longer time period. And so maybe it's because adult bodies are older and don't work as well. So
Can you tell us more about the type 3 Alzheimer's diabetes that they're talking about now?
So they call it type 3 diabetes because they have recently found out that the brain also produces a small amount of insulin, that it's natural that it produces some and that the brain needs it to function properly. And when not enough insulin is released in the brain anymore, it can rewire the brain's pathways. It just doesn't let the brain function properly anymore. And so that is what they call Alzheimer's because it has similar effects. It can cause a short-term memory loss. So.
Is it a good idea to, if I drink a lot of Coca-Cola and I've listened to your presentation, I want to cut down on Coke. What is it a good idea to go to Diet Coke or Coke Zero?
I think Diet Cokes and Coke Zero are worse than the regular Coke because Coke Zero and Diet Coke, they contain aspartame, this sweetener called aspartame, and aspartame, it can develop tumors, and once they banned it from the world, and they done science experiments.
So there are studies to say that it
Yeah, they did an
causes.
experiment on rats, and they gave the rat aspartame, and the rats developed tumors.
Okay. Wow. Thank you very much, girls. Fantastic presentation.